Now it brings us to the time of the show where I get to introduce our guest speaker for tonight. So that's Paula Day, who we met, I think it was only a few weeks ago that we actually had a conversation online. And then had a conversation on your show, and here you are having a conversation on this one as well too. But Paula is, if you don't know her, she's down in Melbourne. She is a virtual CFO and advisor. She spent about 20 years helping health and wellness businesses find financial clarity and ready to help them to scale profitably. She is a CPA. What's that? A certified practicing accountant? Yep, got that. So she's a CPA, and she has a Bachelor of Business in Accounting as well too. She is, as I say, specialist in health and wellness, but she does cover all industry sectors. And along with that, she is an accountant with a personality. She's got a master NLP practitioner and hypnotherapist certification as well. So watch out. She will have you under the financial spell tonight to make sure you take charge of your money properly. And she is also a personal stylist and social media strategist. So you will see her probably more from now on because you'll start sort of searching for her and mentioning her name. Have a look on Instagram. She's got a fabulous profile on Instagram and lots of information there as well too. So if you want to follow her, that's the platform to go to. But she's absolutely passionate about simplifying business finance, helping you to build scalable systems and giving business owners the confidence to grow and thrive. So let's put your hands together. Welcome to the stage, Paula Day.
Thank you so much. That was just a beautiful welcome. And I've learned so much. I've copied down all of those things. Who else copied down all of those things? Oh my gosh, so much value already. I'm talking about your money playbook tonight. So who here, just type in the chat if you want to feel more in control of your money. Who doesn't? Right? Who wants to feel more in control of the money? Just type yes in the chat. So I know that chat box is working. Me, I've got some, yep, me, 100% awesome. That is awesome. And when you started out as a business owner, did you start out just to make money, or did you start out to maybe build some freedom? So type F in the chat or freedom in the chat if you wanted freedom. Both. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it does go together, right? It goes together, right? But how many of us really know what that freedom number is for us? Like that number that we might hit that means that we never have to work again. Our money will just tick over. We'll all be okay, right? So more about that later. But before I go into all of that in the money playbook and give you some tips and things like that, is it all right? Just type in the chat, yes, if it's okay. Is it all right if I share a little bit of a story about me just so you know who I am? Because I'm guessing that aside from Nick, I probably haven't met many of you, right? Yes, good. So you might not know who I am. Who is this girl turning up with all of these things that Nick just mentioned? Yep, perfect. Well, as he mentioned, I started off as an accountant. Yep, my first jobs actually were like an accountant for a restaurant and all of the things. So like I started off as an accountant and I progressed really, really fast into leadership. And the reason why was two reasons. One, I had two little boys and one of them had a disability, well, actually had two disabilities. And I had to make a decision at a time whether I was going to be the parent who stayed home and took him to all of his appointments, or I was going to be the one to go out and earn the money for the family. And my dad made that decision for me. My dad actually hit his freedom number and he retired at 53 and he took over that duty for me and he said, it's on you now. So you can imagine I had the weight of the world on my shoulders that I had to earn some money for this family because I wasn't only just supporting mine, I was taking on my dad's dream as well. And the other reason was, and I don't know if anyone here probably got picked up on this as well, there was just a massive push for women in leadership at that time. And so I got picked up on this train of pushing more women up to leadership because there just wasn't enough. And so I got some great mentors. And I climbed that corporate ladder really, really fast. I ended up, working with government, with ministers, with CEOs in and out of parliament on $1 million and $1 billion deals. And I got to the point And I don't know if anyone else in here has had this experience or whether you've always run a business, but I got to the point where I was sitting there and I'd hit my goal. I had the beautiful city view. It was actually a corner office, exactly what I visioned for myself when I was younger. I had this amazing team who I loved seeing, and I had this little photo on my desk of my kids, and that's about as much as I saw of them. Type in the chat if you've had that experience, or you've had someone in your life had that experience where you just didn't get to see the people that you love, so you sort of had to do something different. I wonder if anyone else has gone through that. I've given myself a thumbs up on the screen. That was me, Nick said. Yes, right. So I'm sure maybe you've experienced, or you've seen other people experience it too. So at that point, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar. Has anyone been to a Tony Robbins seminar? It's very rah-rah. Nick's like, that was me. Yeah, Mike's been to one, right? And what does Tony say? Tony says, build a business. And I'm like, I'm in corporate. What do I build a business? And this girl shouts behind me, because I was wearing a t-shirt that I'd made for myself with a print on it. Do the t-shirts. Your t-shirt looks great. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'll be a t-shirt. So I signed up for this Amazon t-shirt thing, and I started submitting my designs, and I just started doing it before I went to work. I don't know if you know this story, Nick. Started submitting these designs, right? And putting out these designs. And one day I woke up and one of my t-shirts hit the top 10 pages of Amazon. Now, I just want you to type in the chat, what do you think happens when your t-shirts hit the top 10 pages of Amazon? Type in the chat, what do you think might happen? Money! Yes. I was making money in my sleep. I actually woke up to making more money than I did in that whole month at my corporate job. I was like, I can do that with t-shirts. This is crazy. I'm going to be a t-shirt business owner. So I started to scale that. I was putting up more design. I was like, I'm not a designer. I'm an accountant. I hired designers. I had 4 designers working for me, and I was pumping out the t-shirts, and I was earning a whole heap of money for our family until one day I woke up after having a disagreement with a partner. I don't know if anyone's been through this or seen it happen or whatever, and ended up walking away with my kids, my car, and a box of Barbie dolls. My bank account cleared to zero. Zero. I didn't know what I was going to do. I can't believe I took the shitter car. Sorry. Drove to my mum's. I was even too embarrassed to ask my mum for money to get to work. So I just opened her wallet, and she's like, I'm like, can I just have that? It was a 50. I took the 50, and that 50 had to last me until I had a paycheck coming in. And I'd never lived like that in my life. My kids were at private schools. We had gorgeous holidays. We had nice cars. We had a beautiful home. I was always, I always had a really good life, gorgeous clothes, all the things. And all of a sudden I was living paycheck to paycheck, not knowing whether I could cover the lawyer bills and the kids and all the things. And the worst thing was, all the passwords on my business were changed. So I lost my business overnight as well. The thing that I had passion towards, the t-shirts. And after 7 months, I sort of officially got it back, but I didn't really get it back. And I didn't want to look at another t-shirt again. Right? Has anyone gone through anything like this or seen someone? Just type yes in the chat if someone's made a mistake like this, or you've lost your first business. I often find people go through a few businesses before they get to the one, right? Twice. Yeah, twice. Yes. Yeah. Well, you can imagine, I felt like an absolute failure. I was living in my parents' one room in my parents' house. My dad had stacked boxes all around me because he couldn't fit it anywhere else. And it was just like, I couldn't believe where I was, turning 40 back at home with 3 kids. And I thought, I can't do this. And everyone around me said, sit pretty. You've got an amazing job. Just keep going. But there was something more inside of me, right? So I hired a coach. I actually already had a coach. I hired a coach, and probably similar to Nick, right? What you do, and got some guidance because I had no idea what I was going to do. I thought I was going to be a speaker, and he said to me, "No, look, you can do this." And I went from there. I built that business with him and to what it is today. And I think I've coached and supported about, I think I counted the other day, it was over 800 different people. So it's just been an amazing journey, a really amazing journey. So let's get into, that's a little bit about me. Let's get into this money playbook. So I can help you with that, okay? Because I know a little bit about online business. Great job, respect. Thank you. Thank you. So tell me, let's see if this check works today. What's your biggest challenge? Type it in the chat. What's the biggest challenge you have with money right now? Type it in the chat. Let's see if this chat box can light up. Yeah, like a fast flowing river, not enough. Yeah.
What? He's laughing.
We've got someone
Yeah,
on.
money.
Cash flow, yeah, not enough. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay. So often what I say is people either they see it coming in and it goes out just as quickly, right? Has anyone had that? Like it comes in and all of a sudden it's gone. Or it's, you know, it's that getting it to the point where you feel like you can take it out of your head, or it's all in your head and you're going to sleep thinking, am I going to be able to pay this and this and this and this? And I've sort of got to keep it at this kind of level, if anyone's got that. Or maybe you're hitting income ceilings as well, and you're just constantly getting to that same point and not breaking through. And it's really frustrating to not break through to that next level. Or you're stuck in, sometimes I see like we're stuck in that sort of debt cycle, and we can be stuck in a debt cycle and still have great revenue, but we've built the business to a point where you still need the debt to keep the lights on. And that's hard. That's hard on an owner. All right. So what we want it to be is at a point where you can feel like you can pay yourself well, and you can feel in control financially, and you know what's going on, and you're confident about your future money-wise. All right. So the problems that I see though is a lot of the time these are the problems that I see. I'm going to get you to type in some of the problems that you might be having as well in a moment, but trying to manage personal and business money all in one, right? So it's all sort of intertwined and a bit messy. Or only focusing on income. So you're only focusing on revenue generating activities and forgetting about like the actual setup of the money and how it's flowing through the business and all the operations that go behind that. Or palming it off just to the bookkeeper to look after, or the accountant, and then not really being able to communicate with them. I don't know if anyone's spoken to an accountant and thought, I don't know what they said. Like I really don't understand them. And you come away and you think I'm too, maybe you feel too silly or too dumb to ask the question. Or maybe you just think, you know what, it'll work out, it's always okay, and you just kind of ignore it or avoid it, or you go in circles around it, or you palm it off to a partner because maybe you've been told as a child that you're not really good with money, or you don't know enough, or leave that to the professionals. We've got in here structuring it correctly. My accountant tells me everything looks good, but that doesn't feel like it to me. Yeah, absolutely. And that's often because sometimes, well, it could be just a miss how you're reading the situation, but also you've got to think accountants and bookkeepers, they're taking care of what was. They're looking backwards, right? And so we also need to look forwards, right? So most of the times your tax accountant or they're keeping you compliant and they're looking backwards. So we also need to look forwards. All right, so what are some of the other problems? Have I touched on all the problems, or is there any other problems that you have when it comes to the money? All right, I'll move on. I'll come back if I see any pop up, okay? So money's like a garden, and I'm just gonna, in a minute, I'll draw you a picture. You're going to be astounded by my drawing, by the way. I'm just putting it out there. I'm putting it out there. Money's like a garden, right? Oh, here we go. Mental blockages that I need to be cleared. Yeah. All right, Mike, I think, you've spoken out on behalf of probably everyone here as well. Like, I think, unless you're at that point where you are so content with your money, you've probably got a mental blockage there as well that you need to move through, right? And it's sometimes, who else feels that? Just type yes in the chat. Yes, right? And it can come up with that avoidance or the palming off or thinking that it's okay when it's really not, or saying that it's okay when really like it could be so much better. Yeah, okay. So money, as I said, it's like a garden, right? Without a plan, without like upkeep, those weeds start popping up. Like, I walked in this afternoon, and we've been doing a garden up at the back, and I've wanted to put some plants in that garden for a while, and I actually went and got the plants. I actually got them off my sister. She's like really into gardening. She like struck them for me or something. I'm not into gardening, but she put them in pots. I brought them home. I was ready to put them in the ground, and Johnny's like, his whole family is like gardening, right? Like it's in their culture, it's in their blood, right? And he's like, no, it's not ready yet. I'm like, it's been a while. He's like, no, I've got to like turn the soil. I've got to put some other soil in it. I've got to prepare it, right? Before you put those flowers in. I'm like, why can't I just put it? And he's like, if the soil is not good, then those flowers are just going to die anyway. So he's like, just put them over there, like we'll water them and we'll get this soil right. And then I'll let you know, and then we'll plan it in the right way. Okay. Right. Has anyone else tried to plant something like I have, where it's just like it hasn't grown because you haven't prepared the soil? Just type yes in the chat if you're like me. Oh yeah, Sandra's like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, yes. Yeah, we'll just make those pretty flowers grow. No. They can get all depleted and dry because the soil's not good enough, right? So we need the right routine, the right soil base. We need the right things in place for that garden to flourish, right? And then when it does, what happens? It produces beautiful flowers and fruits and everything like that, and shade and things for you, which is exactly what you want. So it's exactly like your money, right? When we get the good bases there, when we get all of that set up nicely, then it can really flourish, right? But when it's a bit of a mess, sometimes those flowers, as much as you work at them, they die off because you just don't have the foundations in place. If this is landing, just type yes in the chat so I know that it's all okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a garden bed like that right now. Yeah. Well, I've got one out the back that I'm waiting to be able to plant in. So that would be nice if I can plant in it. Now, I'm just going to see if this is going to work for me, because for some reason my pen is not working. One sec. Got a bit of a tech thing here. All right. Let's go to this. And you might see the side things, but that might be okay. Draw. Let's see if this works. Oh, yeah, I've got a pen. All right. So when I talk about it, I talk about a tree. As I said, my drawing's great. It's really funny too, because my nana is actually an artist. She would be shocked. She would be shocked. All right, I've got to move this way. All right, so we've got the tree. All right, so the first thing in the tree, now, I know some of you said too that you kind of just want to put it to the side. Maybe you're ignoring the garden at the moment. I don't know if anyone else is in the room who's done this before, where like I have just been on a whole journey because I had a couple of events earlier this year. I had like 4 events where I was away like 4 times, where I had to be my best self at those events, which meant that I had to be in my best shape of my life at those events, right? So I was hopping on the scales before that, though. Before Christmas, I was hopping on the scales, and I'd hop off and I'd round down. I'd round down when my partner said, "How'd you go?" Because we were helping each other. I'll be like, "Oh yeah." I just round it right down to the whole number. Now, has anyone else rounded down on the scales? Right? We don't want to round down, right? Because we're just lying to ourselves. I was lying to myself and it wasn't helping myself, right? So often we do that around weight and around money, right? So if right now you're thinking, "Oh no, it's okay," but really deep down, the whole thing's a bit of a mess and the garden needs a bit of a tidy up, then you don't have to tell anyone else, but you have to be honest with yourself. Can I have a yes in the chat that you'll just be honest with yourself, regardless of where it's at, right? Just be honest with yourself, because then it can help you. Beautiful. All right, so to do this, I'm going to give you a couple of steps. Actually, I'm going to give you 4 steps, and they're easy and they're things that you can apply right away, and you can just pick like one thing that you could do this week, right? So the first step is to actually assess the garden, right? So assess the money. I want you to just know what's coming in and going out. It's as simple as that. Know what's coming in and what is going out, right? So that's the step 1. What is coming in and what is going out. Step 1. And what I mean by that is what income is coming in and what expenses are going out and how much are you paying yourself, right? Because often what I see is either we're not paying ourselves or we're not paying ourselves very well. Sometimes I see we're paying ourselves like less than we did at the first job we ever had, or less than, like even less than it should be, right? So look at those figures and see, just get a feel for it. And it might mean, like, especially if you've got some emotion around it, it might mean actually just opening up those bank accounts and sitting there with the emotion and going, okay, right, I'm going to get through this and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to work out what is coming in and what is going out and what am I paying myself and how am I feeling about this? Yeah. I like that comment. Yeah, $2.86 an hour. Yeah, because I'm guessing a lot of you do a lot of hours and you love what you do and you're just so passionate about it, which is what a lot of our business owners do. But we also want to make sure that you're getting rewarded and not just the whole team. Sometimes I've given this speech and people have gone away and they've come back to me and said, "Paula, I had to make a hard decision. I had to get rid of some of my team because I didn't realize that I wasn't even profitable." And sometimes it just takes that one thing to look at. So that's the first thing I want you to look at. You know, where's your money going? Is there any leaks? Is there anything you can plug? And is there any extra income on the table? And I'll give you a resource at the end of this that will help you get that extra income on the table too. Step 2, we want to look down here at the roots, right? This is about actually setting up yourself for success. And a really easy way to do that is to separate out your accounts, right? Often what I see is when people come to me is it's all lumped into one and they're kind of hovering. They want to hover that money around a certain level. And if it kind of keeps to that level, they kind of know that they're going to cover all of their expenses. And then if anything sort of unexpected turns up, they kind of go into a bit of a panic and hope that they've got enough coming in enough time, right? So we want to look at the roots, like how are we actually setting things up? And a really easy way to do that is actually to start to separate things out. You know, having your operating expenses all going to one account, having your income coming into one account and then being split out really intentionally, having your tax set aside in one account, and talking to your bookkeeper or to your accountant about how much tax you should be putting aside. Sometimes I see people putting aside way too much tax as well. So you don't want that to be, you know, an issue too. And setting up an account there to the side to make sure that you're taking a profit. And from that, you're getting paid, that you're actually making sure that you're also setting the business up for success too, which is what I like to have, a bit of a savings buffer account, And that's where you want to get it to a point. Sorry, I don't know why. I think I did that, the thumbs up. You want to get that savings buffer to a point where it's like 3 months or 6 months or whatever you need to survive. Now, what I say is whatever you need. I have 5 kids. I don't think I shared that with you. I ended up like getting in another relationship. We're not married, but we're married, but you know what I mean? And we've got like 5 kids now. And so 5 kids, private soccer, private schools, violin now, like it's crazy. My life is a whole lot more expensive than someone who might be on their own, right? Or, you know, their kids have left home or whatever. So I need to know that not only is my business going to be covered, but also I don't have to say no to my kids. If something happened, that I would last so many months and be okay and still be able to pay myself. So that's what that savings buffer account. So we're setting up the roots, the business, so that it not only is going to sustain in a downturn, that you're going to be okay, and you're not going to have to start to go climb for debt to just keep in, and you get in this debt cycle, that you're going to be okay personally and your family's going to be okay as well. All right. If that's all landing, just type yes, and I'll give you the last 2 things, and then I'm going to ask you to pick just one thing that you might look into after today's session. All right. So I'm going to take that as it's landing. All right. So number 3, we're going to look at the trunk, right? And this is about actually making things, you know, like solid for yourself. And that means making sure you are constantly getting paid, right? And it also means automating as much as you can when it comes to the finances. You don't want to be sitting there as the business owner trying to look at all of the expenses and getting everything. Like, you want to have as much of it automated as possible. And so if it's in beautiful separate accounts, and you know that that account is for operating expenses, and then you know this operating expense comes in and you can automate that, fantastic, let's do it, right? Or if you know exactly how much you could automate towards your profit account, fantastic, let's do it, right? So start to make sure that you look at the trunk of things, which is paying yourself. You know, are you consistently doing that? If not, how are you going to get to the point where you can? And to automating as much as you possibly can. And the last thing there is to set up regular money dates with yourself, right? So not, you know, oh, I have to look at my money and spreadsheet and I don't want to look at it. It's more, I call it a money date because we want to make it fun, right? I'm not a huge drinker, but I will pull out the wine glass and put a sparkling water in it or something like that, right? And I will put on some nice music. Sometimes I'll stick on a candle and I'll just make it nice for myself. It doesn't have to be a long time, but if you gave yourself, you know, 20 minutes, half an hour to go, this is my money date. This is where I'm going to do all the money stuff as much as I can in this time period that I've got, and then I move on. But make it nice, right? And the last one is all of these beautiful branches, right, that are starting to branch out for you. And this is number 4, your branches, right? And this is making sure, and it's what I mentioned before, making sure that a portion is definitely going out to that savings buffer for yourself. So it's going out to grow the savings for yourself to make sure that you're going to be set up okay. And also, once you've got to that point where you are going to be okay and you've got a bit going off there, that a portion is going off to investments as well, so that you can either reinvest in the business or you can invest in something else towards your financial freedom figure, right? And I touched on that little financial freedom figure before, and I won't go into that depth now, but I do have a calculator to help you actually calculate what that financial freedom number would be for you. Because as I said, like my life is expensive right now. If something happened, you know, my financial freedom for me to pack everything up and, you know, not work again, I still have to make sure I'm going to look after my family and, you know, have the life that I want. But some people come to me and say, you know what, I actually want to live in Thailand. And I don't really want a big life, you know, I don't want all the luxury things. Well, then that's a different number. It's a different number. And maybe you know, sometimes we hit the number and we don't even know that we can actually hit it a lot easier than what, because we just haven't even calculated the number, right? So I've got a calculator to do that. As you said before, Nick, I'm more than happy to go through that with people, because like often when I find when people see a calculator, like, has anyone got this? Like you see one, you're like, oh, I don't know how to use this. So I'm happy to walk through that with people. But I've also got a money playbook there that I'd love to gift to every single one of you. And Mike, that's got a bit of mindset in it as well around getting through those limitations. So that might help with that. I'm going to bring that to an end. Nick?
Fabulous. Fabulous. I love the tree, actually. It's a really good tree. You've got another career coming on.
Thanks.
Excellent. All right. Well, look, we will drop those links in the chat there for both of those things. But just for now, let's open up the floor for any questions, any discussion. Actually, I'm just trying to sort of have a look at the chat to see if there's anything there. But if you have a question or a comment, we've got a bit of time to have a chat through some of this. And don't think that this is that your question is only for you. It's probably highly likely that someone else is thinking of this as well, but they are just too afraid to ask. So if you ask, then you're helping a whole lot of people there as well too. So best way is to either just unmute yourself or put your hand up with that little hand raised icon, and we'll be able to see that and bring you on. So who's got a question for us, or even a comment? All right, Cameron does. Did you want to serve? Oh, you're eating dinner. Okay. So would your approach differ depending on your legal setup, i.e. whether you're a sole trader, company, etc.?
Yes, to a point. And I think that probably is more of a question with a setup, more of a question for your tax accountant. So where I sit in the sort of space of it is you've got your bookkeepers looking after things, and then you've got your tax accountants with the compliance and making sure that you're set up properly, because as soon as you sort of tick over a bit more revenue, you've got to make sure you've got a company set up or you're going to be in a bit of strife. And then sort of on top of that is the forward-looking type accountants, like what I do, look forward and help with that kind of advice and set up for this kind of thing, right? So that kind of question I would definitely ask to your tax accountant if you're looking at going from sole trader to company, and because there's definitely some advantages to get over to a company and get the structure set up right, and they'll be able to advise you on how to do that and like what kind of structure in the companies to do that, because that's their specialty. And then I've got no more questions.
Actually, I was just going to ask, you said something really interesting just in that comment there, was that you're a forward-looking accountant.
Yes.
And whereas the tax accountants and sort of backward-looking accountants,
Yeah.
I'm really interested in what a forward-looking accountant does and some of the ways it can actually help a business.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because what your tax accountant they do your compliance and make sure that you're all okay compliant wise from a company point of view or a sole trader point of view, and all your tax is right. So were they looking back over the year on how you went, or back over the past month, or back over the past quarter on how you went, right? Bookkeepers are just there keeping things organized for you and really feeding all of that to your accountant for that maybe like yearly or quarterly check-in. What I do as I sit over top as a virtual CFO is actually giving that high-level financial advice and looking forward. So forward forecasting for your cash flow. So looking out 12 months, how we're going with the cash flow, how we're going to set things up so it's going to actually work for you a bit more profitable, tracking your KPIs, so tracking your financial KPIs to see how you're going from that point of view. So looking at some key metrics like how we're going, not just revenue wise, but how we're going, maybe marketing spend towards comparison to your revenue, or how much you're paying yourself in comparison to your revenue, or maybe towards your savings goals how can we increase that kind of thing, and setting up long-term budgets and stuff like that.
And with some of those, let's say financial forecasting and so working through, my ears pricked up when you said marketing spend, because that's my thing as well too. And in fact, I try and get as much of my marketing done without spending a lot of money at all, but sometimes you do have to spend a bit of money. But how do you work out sort of things like, well, I know that I get a profit and loss statement
Yep.
at the end of the year. It's got some numbers on it, and I think that looks okay, or it doesn't look okay, but generally, it looks okay. So, but there are some important numbers in there that sort of help to drive some decisions you make in business. So I'm curious about some of those, like, and for typical small businesses, I think most people here are sort of small businesses or micro businesses, or sort of, sort of managing it themselves. But what are some key things to look at?
Look, I think when you're looking at your P&L, and as a small business, how I use it with my clients is I'd actually dashboard it. So like I look at it and look at all the key metrics with it. But if you're just grabbing your P&L and you're looking at it, often you can get it at the end of the year. You can look at it from your accountant, or get it at the end of the quarter, and they can show it to you, and you can open it up and go, well, that doesn't look like my bank account, so it's different, right? And you can think, well, it says it's got a profit, but where's the profit? It's not on my account, right? So a really good way, remember the tree? What I had there was separate accounts. Like a really good way to start to sort of monitor this is separate accounts, because on that P&L, it has your operating expenses. So all your expenses are going into one account. You can really just clearly see that at a glance as a small business owner, just looking at the actual bank account, rather than trying to go through a P&L and go, okay, what happened there? And it's past data, because it's relying on you to reconcile your Xero or your MyOb or whatever you're using to make sure it's all loaded in there, right? So you can see it straight away. Also with that, when you are looking at all of those expenses, look at some of the leaks that you got in there. So could you do it leaner, smarter, better? Like with some of the tools that Nick showed us today, like I'm already like always thinking, what could I get rid of that I could replace with an AI? Or what could I do smarter, better, quicker? And I'll give you an example. Even in my own business, I think it was a few years ago now, right? Maybe 4 years ago, right? No, maybe 3 years ago, right? And I was doing things and technology had changed. So I had, a software for this, which connected with this, and it was all sort of like puzzled together, because that's all that we had at the time, right? You had to, to have an audio thing, you had to have this software, to have pictures in PowerPoints, you had to have a different, like it was just all very woven together, and it was a lot of money here, there, and everywhere. But things had upgraded and I hadn't realized. And when I realized, I actually got a tech person to help me do it. I could take away a lot of those expenses and just replace it with one system. And that's what I did. It was a bit of a upgrade to one system, but that one system cost a hell of a lot less than all of the mini little systems that I had. And that was a big saving. So it's about looking at how you're doing things and actually looking at those expenses and going, do I need it? Could I do it leaner, smarter, better? Because I'm going to tell you, with some of the biggest businesses that I've worked with, the people who are in the millions and billions, they are ruthless. They are absolutely ruthless when it comes to the expenses. They are just like, find this and cut it. And so how can you cut your costs to make it like really, really lean and do business like the best possible that you can? And then what some people miss as well is actually like, how can you increase that revenue? Like, can you add in an order bump or a upgrade or something that really small that might just not take as much time, but actually increase what you're bringing in for the month, right? So something little that you could do that's not going to cost you any more time or effort. Maybe you've even got it already, that you could just put it out there. And like an example of that was recently, I just put out a story on my Instagram. It was like a 4-story thing. And at the end, it had a link to purchase a mini course. And that mini course was actually something I had already recorded. I really had done it already, and it was just simple and easy to follow. And I just put a price on it and people bought it. So it's just like, how could you do something like to add the revenue and decrease the expense? So when you're looking at your P&L, that's the things that you're looking for, right? You're looking for that. And you're also looking to ask yourself the question, am I getting paid enough? Am I paying myself enough? How could I pay myself more? And the only way to do that is to either increase that revenue or decrease the expense, or do both. And sometimes it's about restructuring things too. Like I had a client who went from earning sort of that 13,000 a month, and then we bumped it up. And I think I might have told you about this one, Nick, like bumped it right up to like 158,000 a month. And we had to change the avatar we went for, right? So we actually changed who the person is. Same service, same thing that they were selling, different person, different market, different price point, right?
So they're doing exactly the same thing,
Exactly.
a different market, and so they can charge more.
Charge more.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, if they lost some clients, or they didn't get as many clients, they're still better off. And they probably got a bit more time as well.
They had more time. They actually turned away all those clients because they, I remember she said to me, like, she was like, I just don't even enjoy working with these clients anymore. So when the price went up, they couldn't afford to work with her anyway. So it just wasn't an issue. She didn't have to even deal with the conversations because they couldn't work with it.
So one of the things that I do is every year I'm doing an audit of my subscriptions. I hadn't thought about it from the point of view that you talked about it. So of saying, do these tools, are they still current? And I'm remembering back to years ago, the tools that I was using back then, they were really expensive. And they often sat on my computer. And so I had all the hardware costs that went along with it as well. Today, you get those same tools for like $10, $20 a month. But I've got a habit of just subscribing to cool stuff. And so every year I've just got to do a cull, because I have to ask myself, am I actually using this really cool stuff? It's not quite so cool anymore.
Exactly.
Okay, I got a question there. Paul, he's just asking, what was that one system that you moved to? That sounds like the magic bullet.
Well, I moved to a system called Coachflow Systems, which took away my email, it took away my CRM, it took away my website building. It combined everything in one from that sense. Yeah. So that was a really cool thing. Yeah, I think it's similar to Go High Level. I think from what I've heard about Go High Level, I think it's very similar to that.
Yes, that's the one that I use, and it replaced a whole lot of tools. It was more expensive as the one-off subscription, but the number of tools that it replaced meant that my overall cost just went right down. And it's just so much more powerful as well. It's like it just does stuff that some of these tools wouldn't even do.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know if anyone remembers like Zapier, like, or if that you
I still use that too.
right? My previous things had so many zaps like everywhere, like to connect it all together. And I didn't need that. I didn't need that anymore. It was really good.
And if one of the zaps breaks, it's gone.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Nick, could I just come back in there? Paul Kennedy here. Could you tell us again? I missed the name of the system you moved to.
It's called Coachflow Systems.
Coachflow Systems. Thank you.
Reach out to me on socials. I'll send it. I'll find the link and I'll send it to you if you want.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now we've got someone waiting so very patiently there with his hand up. That'd be Azim. How are you, Azim?
I'm well, thanks, Nick. I'm patient. You know that. You know I should be on the operating table. Paula, first of all, thank you so much for a great presentation, and it's lovely to see a forward-looking accountant, right? which is wonderful. So from your experience, and just when you were talking about that subscription thing, Nick, an exercise that I actually went through with a client on Thursday of last week was we go through their statement and we just get 2 pens and we go through 2 questions. Does it help me keep a customer? Does it help me get a customer? And then we go through and we put a line through all of those things, and then we look at everything else that's left. And in her particular case, we found $6,000 a month that she was spending on, pardon my French, shit that she didn't need to spend it on, including double subscriptions of things, all that stuff. So that's a lot, right? That's over $60,000 a year back on her bottom line. So she was happy with that simple exercise. Keep a customer, get a customer. Anything else, you question it, right? So my question for Paula is, money is such a scary subject for so many small business owners because they haven't come from an environment of, whether it be scarcity or what, and they kind of just try to hang on to it, right? And I try to with my clients. We look at, how does the money flow through the business? Okay. And so do you find that a lot of business owners or the people that you deal with are somewhere between scared and confused about money, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how it operates in their business? I mean, like you were talking about, I think Nick was mentioning it before, we were talking about KPIs and things like that. And even that is a confusing topic for a lot of people. What's your KPI? Well, it's this revenue thing. No, that's a key result. And I've had some stand-up spirited debates with accountants on this too. And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, because something else needed to have happened to end up with that dollar figure. I said, think of your car, the speedo is a lagging indicator. What did you do? You pushed the accelerator, right? So there's leading and lagging indicators. But do you find that a lot, that people just like confused about money?
Absolutely confused. Yep. And like if I think about it, sort of leads back into what someone put in, I think Mike put in the chat earlier as well. It comes back to those beliefs that we have around money and what we may have, experienced, as you said, coming from lack or coming from a different environment, or maybe you came into entrepreneurship because you just didn't want to work for someone else, or you thought, what, I can earn more money on my own, or I can create freedom for my family, or I can create freedom for myself, or whatever it was. But until we actually get past some of those beliefs, like we'll just keep on hitting those blocks, and it's almost like we can create the same workplace over and over again. When you said that, it just automatically made me think of this lady that I worked with. I've actually hired her as a PR now, because she is actually a PR. That's what she does. She's had a PR firm for the last 15 years. But when she came to me, her business had stalled, and she always seemed to struggle. Like she got clients, but like it was always like feast or famine, and it was like real struggle. And what she didn't tell me when she came to me is that she actually had a stroke just before she came into me, right? And so she was really finding it hard to turn up, and she was finding energy-wise it was hard to turn up. And the reason when we went through some mindset stuff, she was like, her block was she felt like she needed to be saved, right? She felt like deep down someone had to save her. We all seem to have something that blocks it, that we need to get out of our own way, right? Even if you think about, and so she said to me, Paula, like, I really believe I had a stroke because I physically needed to be saved, and I created it. And it was just like, I never saw that coming. She saw it, but when she unlocked that, it was like these invoices started getting paid out of nowhere. She's like, like invoices that have been sitting there for a while, like from clients, like probably it's never gonna happen, right? Unless you send some debt collectors out there, right? So she had that happen. She had some new inquiries come in that week. And even if you think about my story, I had a really good life, right? A really easy financial life, even my childhood, very easy. It's like I had to be thrown into chaos to learn that lesson to come through again.
It's almost like you authored it yourself.
I think
To
so.
see yourself, right?
To be able to break through. Otherwise, I would have stayed at that same level. And even when I came out of that, it only took me 7 months to get everything back to the same way. My kids didn't pop out of the private schools. No one suffered. Like, no one would have known. It's like I just created it back to where it should be. So we have these levels and we have these ceilings, and to break through them, sometimes we need to smash through some of those beliefs that we've got inside and just let them go to be able to move forward.
And so much is, I mean, one of my favorite sayings is, you know, your turnover is your vanity, your profits your sanity, but the cash in the bank's the reality, right? And so when I go to business, oh, I made this profit last year, so show me the money, right? And they can't. Always put that back in the business. Okay, so you didn't actually make a profit. You pushed the expense
Yeah.
for the next year, right? So, but what you were just saying there about, and what I find with the people that I work with, the attitude around the money is a lot of the issue. So one of the things that I do, and my clients do as well, we don't pay our bills, we pay our blessings.
I like that. Yeah.
So today I paid my Optus blessing because I'm blessed to have access to the internet and all that sort of thing. So it's a blessing to pay it. So your attitude about paying that piece of paper is totally different. Oh God, I've got to pay my bills.
This is a beautiful concept. I absolutely love that concept.
So but anyway, look, we're taking over the whole conversation.
Definitely. Sorry, Nick.
We should catch up another time. Thanks, Nick.
Excellent. Thanks, Azim. All right. Any other questions for tonight? We've probably got a couple of minutes left. If you've got any other questions or
Yes, I have.
comments. Sorry,
Nick.
who was that? Mike, is it?
Yes. Paula, I'm happy to quickly say to the group what I did. When I was young, just out of university with a degree and no business experience, I was scammed by some people for $150,000 back in the 70s, and that's a lot of money. But I paid it back with high interest rates and everything, cost me well over $300,000. And I decided then that we would never be rich because the only rich people I knew had borrowed money. And I wasn't going to borrow any more money, therefore I couldn't be rich. And I think that's the barrier that's held me back all that time and still does, and I'm still trying to overcome it.
Well, can I get in here now? Is that all right, Nick? If I
100%.
Mike, if I give you a little bit of advice here?
Yes.
Is that okay if I coach you for a moment? Well, actually, I might mentor / coach.
Yes.
Okay, and if hopefully that's all right with everyone. But thank you so much for sharing, because I've actually heard so many people say that they've got scammed, and I feel like in some ways, some things that I've bought to has been a bit of a scam too. And the very fact that you can recognize this, that you're seeing it and you see it as a limitation, I'm going to call it out that it actually, because you're aware of it, it's no longer a limitation because you're aware of it. It's like you're walking through a forest, right? And when you're walking through it, you just see trees. But when you hop out and you turn around and you see there's a lot of trees, you're like, that's a forest. And you know it's the forest. You don't think anything else of it, right? This is done. Now you've seen it. You've seen the limitation. So you can choose now, because now it's a choice, right? You're making that choice to feed into the limitation and keep on choosing the same choices, or you can make the choice to actually move differently through your world and react differently and take different steps and different choices because you can see it, right? You actually have that vision of it. So you can actually choose to let it go. You can choose to let it go without having to do any deep work or anything like that. You could choose to let it go like right now, like by the end of this session, you could just say, you know what, that's gone, that's done, and walk away and say, I'm going to get up the next morning and I'm a new Mike. I'm a new Mike, and this is how I operate. Whether you choose to take on loans or you choose not to, you can choose to have a different story in your head. And the story still may be that you don't take on loans. The story might change to something like, I am actually really abundant and I have, a whole heap of revenue coming in. Or it could be a story that I told myself a while ago when I first wanted to hit a really big milestone, and I was just saying to myself the money figure over and over and over and over again until it just came really fast, because And it didn't come from a loan or anything like that. It just came through revenue. So yeah, whenever we have something and we can see it, now it's a choice. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I
Thank you.
hope that helps you, Mike. I hope you're okay.
Great.
with it.
Thank you, Paula.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike, for actually sharing that. That's sort of in a public forum like this. And in fact, I think that there, it's certainly been good for me because that's helped me as well too. With thinking about, oh yeah, actually I've got that as well too, because my dad never believed in borrowing money. So that sort of comes down to me sort of as well. So thanks, Mike. We've got a question just in the chat. The calculator, is that something that you give out, or do they contact you for that, or how does that all work?
Absolutely. I'm happy to either give it out or you can book a call in with me and I can go through it with you. So either way, but I'll send you a copy, Nick, so that you can send it out. And if anyone wants to instead just run through it with me, I'm happy to do that. It'll take probably about 20 or so minutes just to run through. And what that calculator will give you is like what your freedom figure is.
Perfect. All right. We'll send that out sort of after the session there. And yeah, definitely if anyone wants to contact you, they can do that. In fact, that's probably a good point to say, where do people contact you, or how do they get in touch with you?
They can get in contact with me on Instagram is probably the best one. I'll type it in the chat. So it is. But you can find me on every platform. Where's my at? I am.
Actually, it's in the chat right now. So the team have been busy there dropping it in. So there you go.
Good. That's so good. Look, there's my LinkedIn. You can get to my LinkedIn or you can get to my Facebook or my Instagram. So totally easy. All of
Lots
those
of places. Excellent. So yeah, look, there's even YouTube as well too. So definitely reach out to Paula. She is very open and generous with her knowledge, as you can tell tonight. Sensational presentation. Really enjoyed that. You've got such a good way about you as well too. So that was really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we've dropped a link into the chat there for the playbook as well. So the playbook's in there. There it is again. So that's worth grabbing and downloading for that. And so I'd just like to give you, or have everyone give you a huge round of applause for coming to share with us tonight. So thank you very much. And that there is our show for tonight. If you have enjoyed it, and or let's say you want to watch it again, it will be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow afternoon. So if you've not subscribed to the Smash Go YouTube channel, now's a good time to do it. We'll drop the links into chat there, so you can go over, subscribe. If you hit the bell when you subscribe, you'll get a notification as soon as it is uploaded to the channel, which will be tomorrow afternoon. We'll spin the wheel. Did we have a door prize for everyone? Jeez, I'm running away here.
Yes. Yeah. Spin the wheel, because whoever wins, I'll give them a free session with me. So 30 minutes with me, and we'll go through your business and your money.
Fabulous. Thank goodness Zoom was there. I think he's probably hoping he's going to win this one. So, all right, well, let's bring up the wheel of names. And yes, we have everybody's name in the wheel of names. Just remember, you've got to be in the room to win it. So now is not the time to disappear. And look, we're starting on Azim's name. So let's spin the wheel and see where it ends. And so a virtual drum roll on our desks, on our knees, on our chests in front of us. And the winner is, can you believe it, eh? Azim. We did not rig that.
I set a very solid intention about that, Nick. So thank you.
Oh, that is just
Great
classic.
draw.
Is that the power of manifestation at play? That was how it really works.
Pretty much. I made a space for the meeting and Paula fell in it.
That's fabulous. So well, there you go. Well, congratulations. We will hook you up with Paula tomorrow.
So Nick, just a minute. Why does Paula look scared now? What happened?
Yeah. I did warn her about you before we came onto the show. So well done. And once again, thanks, Paula. So we'll connect both of you tomorrow. And yes, we've got the YouTube channel. If you've enjoyed tonight and you want to watch it again, it is on the YouTube channel. If you know someone else in business that will benefit from this advice in tonight's session, definitely shoot them across to that YouTube channel, or even to connect with Paula as well too. Business Owners Smashing Online Facebook group. Go and join that if you're not a member of that. And we have launched our AI for Business program. So that's a program that is starting next Wednesday. So the link is in chat. Go and check that out. It is specifically on ChatGPT, how to improve your prompts and how to use it for business. And in particular, the SEO component. How do you get found in ChatGPT when people are using that as a search engine and they're bypassing Google search? So you've got some really interesting stuff around all that as well. So link is in chat. Now's a good time to save the chat. Click the three little dots at the top of it. Go and save it, and click the link to open it. That'll pop up so that you've got it on your screen. All the apps and tools are there as well too. So that is our session tonight. Paula, thank you. And everyone who has come along tonight, thank you for coming along tonight. I hope you enjoyed it and there's some good takeaways for you. And I look forward to seeing you all again here, same time, same place next week. Have a good night.